and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Woyaya, 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 we are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. And we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Woyaya, 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 woyaya,
And then there's the one about how many narcissists does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is one. He holds the light bulb while the rest of the world revolves around him. Welcome to this online service of Neshoba Unitarian Universalist Church, where laughter truly is a spiritual practice. I am the Reverend Beth Lefever, pleased and privileged to serve as the minister of this congregation, and I'm so very glad that you have chosen to join with us this morning. Our opening words are by Martin Luther King Jr., excerpted from his 1964 Nobel Prize acceptance speech. Sooner or later, all of the people of the world will have to discover a way to live together in peace, and thereby transform this pending cosmic elegy into a creative psalm of brotherhood and sisterhood. If this is to be achieved, we must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. In the spirit of love, let us be together in worship. And now Jeanne Ortmann is going to light our chalice.
This past Wednesday was Veterans Day. Our chalice lighting today is in gratitude for those like me who were or are in the armed services. The words were written by Cynthia Landrum. In honor of those who have served and those who continue to serve at home and abroad for peace and in war, we light our chalice and we offer our thanks. Please join me in the words of our affirmation of covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
Hi.
Hi.
We are reading Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout, Would Not Take the Garbage Out by Shel Silverstein. It's one of our favorite poems. All right, let's
There's all the trash.
Here we go. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out.
She'd scour the pots and scrape the pans, candy the yams and spice the hams.
And though her daddy would scream and shout, she simply would not take the garbage out.
And so it piled up to the ceilings, coffee grounds, potato peelings,
Ground bananas, rotten peas, chunks of sour cottage cheese.
It filled the can, it covered the floor, it cracked the window and blocked the door, with bacon rinds and chicken bones, droopy ends of ice cream cones. Prune pits, peach pits, orange peel, gloppy clumps of cold oatmeal, pizza crust and withered greens, soggy beans and tangerines,
Crusts of black burned buttered toast, Gristly bits of beefy roast. The garbage rolled on down the hall. It raised the roof, it broke the wall. Greasy napkins, cookie crumbs, globs of gooey bubble gum, cellophane from green bologna, rubbery blubbery macaroni.
Peanut butter caked and dry, curdled milk and crust of pie, moldy melons, dried up mustard, eggshells mixed with lemon custard.
Cold French fries and rancid meat, yellow lumps of cream of wheat. At last the garbage reached so high that it finally touched the sky. Good.
And all the neighbors moved away, and none of her friends would come to play. And finally
Sarah Cynthia Stout said,
"Okay, I'll take the garbage out."
But then, of course, it was too late. The garbage reached across the state, from New York to the Golden Gate, and there in the garbage she did hate. Poor Sarah met an awful fate that I cannot now relate, because the hour is much too late. But children, remember Sarah Stout, and always take the garbage out.
Ours is a church that strives to welcome and celebrate diversity, grow community, nurture spirituality, and promote justice. We are a people who strive to bring those worthy goals to vibrant and vital life. To that end, please give of your resources as you are able during this, our morning offering. Every gift matters, and we are so very grateful. My first reading is by Sebastian, author of The Big Bang and Relative Immortality. Aggression is not universal. Indeed, if we judge by the number of species which are non-aggressive and those which are, the scales might balance in favor of a greater number of non-aggressive species, denying the classic aphorism that nature is red in tooth and claw. The big fish eat the little fish, it is true, but elephants, moose, camels, alpacas, llamas, deer, elk, horses, mules, buffalo, hippos, and giraffes eat leaves and grass. My second reading is by the late Stephen Hawking, theoretical physicist. The human failing I would most like to correct is aggression. It may have had survival advantage in caveman days to get more food, territory, or a partner with whom to reproduce, but now it threatens to destroy us all. I had a friend some years ago who had a young son, maybe about 10 years old or so. My friend Mike enjoyed watching TV that was, in my opinion, too violent for his son to view. Now, I like what would be considered quite violent television. The Law and Order shows, Criminal Minds, and True Crime, which abounds on several stations. I don't remember if I liked it back then, but I do now. However, I would not have wanted to be exposed to it when I was a child. It would have frightened me. Mike and I had several discussions about it, philosophical discussions. His view was that exposure resulted in desensitization to the fear for children. My argument was that exposure resulted in desensitization to the violence itself, and I believe I was right. Douglas A. Gentile, author of Media Violence and Children, wrote that findings suggest that violent media exposure can produce acute and chronic desensitization to violence by reducing the extent to which the emotional impact of violence is elaborated in the brain. He also wrote, in one study, preschoolers who watched ordinary violent TV programs during breaks at school displayed more aggressiveness on the playground than did children who viewed nonviolent programs over the same 11-day period. It is a violent world, no question about it. But violence is frightening and confusing and overwhelming, especially until one matures enough to feel some degree of confidence in one's own abilities to defend against it. Until then, they must either have a limited exposure to violence or they must be able to have faith and trust in their parents or caregivers to keep them safe. That's why violence by parents is so injurious and damaging to children. Additionally, there are several problems with depending on children's trust in their parents to keep them safe. One is that not all parents are reliable in this regard. Another is that some of the TV shows and movies that do expose children to violence have storylines in which violence is inflicted on or perpetrated by people who are parents. But as I think about all this, I have to wonder if violence is normal, natural, a human dynamic. Is it evolutionary, a survival mechanism? If one tribe has enough food and another is starving and the first tribe won't share? I probably have to be an anthropologist to know these things more definitively, but these are questions we all should be asking in a society and world where violence does not seem to recede much or for long. And what about aggression? That plays out in all sorts of ways in our lives, from violence against other people to winning at Go Fish, or table tennis, or track or football. Boxing and auto racing and wrestling, sports where violence is built in or is most likely to occur. Wow. These are very appealing to audiences, widely appealing. Now, one could enjoy watching auto races without anticipating a crash, but I wonder how much such anticipation is a part of fans' enjoyment. In professional boxing and wrestling, bodily damage is key to the sport. And our excitement about these sports, if we are fans, our excitement does not escape our children's notice if we do not actually invite them to share it with us, as many do. So let me tell you another story, this one closer to home than the one about my friend who allowed his son to watch violent television with him. This is about my brother's grandson, Zach. Zach was 4 years old when this happened, and it was at a family gathering for his birthday. One of the gifts he received was a WWF, that's World Wrestling Federation, punch toy. It was about 4 feet tall, weighted with water, thus heavy, strong vinyl with large muscular vinyl arms and fists, a fierce drawn-on vinyl face, and a recorder inside that activated upon movement. Ow! Ugh, the recorder grunted when little Zachary punched it before it bounced right back up again. Is that the best you can do? It would further taunt. And then, I'm gonna rip your head off. Zachary became very aggressive with the toy, hitting it, kicking it, jumping on it. When it didn't bounce back fast enough for Zach's satisfaction, he would order it to get up, get up. And at one point he said, I'm gonna kick your ass. The whole family seemed a little embarrassed by Zach's aggressive interaction with this toy. My brother, his grandfather, even said at one point, you can hug on him too, you know. But little Zach was way too far gone for that. I have thought about this incident a number of times in the years since. What did Zach's interaction with this toy say about him, about us, about violence and aggression in general? Did this toy ignite Zach's innate or learned violence, aggression? And is it innate or learned? Did it provide a release for that aggression, a healthy release? Or did it create aggression in Zach with its ugly face and violent taunting? How much, also, we must ask, was Zachary responding to the reaction of our family, those of us watching? Even if unconsciously, he may well have picked up on our discomfort. And would a little 4-year-old girl have reacted the same way? In my family, as in many families, a little girl would have never been given such a toy in the first place. What is she then to do with her own aggression? Does she have any? Is it only the male of the species that grapples with aggression? ScienceDirect.com reports that there are gender differences in aggressive behavior with boys and girls. Boys and girls are about equally aggressive verbally, while boys are more physically aggressive and girls more indirectly aggressive. Indirect aggression includes things such as gossip and social exclusion and the spreading of rumors. In the animal world beyond humans, the size of the animals have a great deal to do with whether the male or the female of the species is more aggressive. Usually the male is larger and also more aggressive. However, in the case of hyenas and chinchillas, the female is larger and is socially dominant. In both the animal and the human world, aggression is also connected to levels of hormones in the body, and particularly testosterone. Female hyenas and chinchillas reportedly have increased levels of testosterone in their systems. Again, among both human and animal species, child caring, which often falls to the female, tends to diminish aggressive tendencies in order to assure continuation of the species. However, it is said that new human fathers Human fathers experience a decline in testosterone levels when adjusting at first to a life of being responsible for a baby. So, all that being said, I am well beyond my intellectual ability to make sense of any of it. I do know that in the animal kingdom, matriarchies exist in which females hold the primary position of power, not always based on size. This is true with elephants, lions, meerkats, mole rats, ants, bees, killer whales, and bonobos. The latter is considered the most peaceful of all the primates, a species which settles its differences and solves conflicts through sex. But again, I am well beyond my educational capacity to make sense of any of this. But what I think would be good is if we did make sense of it and learned how to use an increased understanding to temper our tendencies toward aggression and violence. We have the knowledge, skills, and abilities, as well as weapons and technology, to do great harm to one another in this world, and too often we have the will. Zachary was not aberrant in his behavior with the WWF bouncy toy, nor do I think I or my friend Mike were abnormal in our interest in watching violent television, though I will always believe it is inappropriate to allow children to watch television violence. For me, it is largely an interest in psychology that draws me to such programs. The amazing capacity for almost unbelievable extremes in human behavior. But I don't know. It could be that my attraction to such programming is the result of never having been given a WWF bouncy toy to throttle. Okay, so I find I have no answers to the questions I have raised, and I'm going to stop talking now. Except to say it is important to find healthy outlets for our aggression and use them regularly and wisely, and to teach our children to do the same. And now I'm done. Amen. Let us move into a time of meditation and reflection and prayer. The words for this morning's meditation are from the Buddhist tradition. May every creature abound in well-being and peace. May every living being, weak or strong, the long and the small, the short and the medium-sized, the mean and the great, may every living being, seen or unseen, those dwelling far off, those living nearby, those already born, those waiting to be born, may all attain inward peace. Let no one deceive another. Let no one despise another in any situation. Let no one from antipathy or hatred wish evil to anyone at all. Just as a mother with her own life protects her only child from hurt, so within yourself, foster a limitless concern for every living creature. Display a heart of boundless love for all the world in all its height and depth and broad extent. Love unrestrained, without hate or enmity. Then as you stand or walk, sit or lie, until overcome by drowsiness, devote your mind entirely to this. It is known as living the life divine. Amen. And until next week, blessed, blessed be.
from all